I
We had
guess
one like
last game.
yeah, we had one like last week.
Yeah, I guess the last game that they played.
All right, what's up, guys? Sorry for the delay. YouTube's not showing I'm live, but watching the video on my phone looks like we're live. So, Chuck and Nick here, bringing you another day. I think we had a pretty good day from the community yesterday. Saw a lot of screenshots in the Discord. So let's try to keep it rolling today. Looks like it's Dallas Mavericks chalk day. What are we looking forward to, Nick?
I don't know if it's Dallas chalk that I'm looking forward to necessarily. It's tough, man. The thing is, it's only, a 4-game slate. My Nets played earlier today. That was not the best showing from them. They did storm back a little bit, so not totally embarrassing. But, yeah, man, Dallas chalk, like, sometimes it all goes off, and it's obvious. The model loves it all tonight. I think on paper it makes a ton of sense. But I do feel like there's been a few instances this season where Luka's been out, everyone loads up on Dallas, and it kind of fizzles, for lack of a better word. I don't know, man. I'm liking some of the guys, not as confident in some of the others. I think they're necessary tonight on a limited slate because we're not going to have great value. One of the other games here, Portland OKC, high likelihood of a blowout, but I do really like the early game, but that's tough because if you load up on that early game, you're not going to be able to pivot later. So yeah, man, a lot of nuance for a 4-game slate, I will say.
Yeah, I agree. If someone could do me a favor in the chat, just let me know that we're live and you can hear us. 'Cause YouTube's still not showing I'm live, but like I said, it seems like the video's up on my phone. Not sure if the audio's there. But yeah, my top 5 exposed players right now are all Dallas Mavericks. Jaden Hardy, 100. Okay, cool. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you. 100% Jaden Hardy, like 70% Kyrie, and then about 50% of Derek Jones Jr., Tim Hardaway, and Josh Green over on DraftKings. Then it looks like I'm getting some sprinkles of Seth Curry, Dwight Powell, and Grant Williams. Not as excited about those last 3 guys. And I'm not sure how I feel about Tim Hardaway, but his price is probably a little bit too cheap to ignore on DraftKings, 5.3K. I know that Jaden Hardy and Kyrie are the 2 that I feel the best about. I feel like Kyrie's still coming in for a little bit too low of ownership, especially he's been playing fantastic recently. I know New York is probably not the greatest matchup, but I'm still into it. I think we just have to eat the chalk here, and there's some pieces that we can find to get differently today. So let's just go ahead and dive into guards. And now, other than the Mavericks guys, who are you most interested in at the top end?
It is a good matchup for SGA. I don't really find myself getting there. It's interesting. We've been banging the drum of Derek White all year. He's been the better Boston guard, but it seems like recently Drew's maybe kind of taking over more usage. I don't know why or what it is, but I was looking at their recent games, and Drew's actually been paying off his salary more often than White. He gets his former team here. Milwaukee, terrible against guards. So Drew Holiday, not someone I've been playing at all this season, but I think tonight he makes a lot of sense on both sides. He's someone I'll probably get to relatively aggressively. And then, it's tough to get away from the Dallas guys. We do have SGA on the top end, some blowout risk there. I do like the DK price at 10-4. That's a little too cheap. I think even if that game blows out, he probably gets value. FanDuel, tougher to get to at 11-3. But yeah, other than Dallas, I really, really do like Drew here. And then I will say Brunson makes a lot of sense as a run back against his former team here if you are loading up on Mavericks.
Yeah, I like that. And someone asked, who's the pivot from Irving? We have a few. Brunson is not coming in with low ownership or anything. He's still 27% on DraftKings, but I think he's a decent pivot. Devin Booker and Damian Lillard in a similar price range. The problem I have with Devin Booker recently is, so I was at the Suns-Clippers game on Monday, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, is Devin Booker playing? Like he just felt it felt like he had no presence in the game when Bradley Beal was on the court. So I was pretty excited to play him even at that 10K price when Bradley Beal was out. But I don't know if it's Point Booker that's not working out or they're still trying to figure it out. But I'm not excited about any of the Suns guys except for Kevin Durant tonight. And so I don't know that we necessarily have to find a pivot for Kyrie Irving, but Jalen Brunson seems like the most reasonable one. If you can pay a little bit more and get to SGA, that sounds good too. And then, I mean, looking at Drew Holiday and Derek White, these guys are coming in for 2 and 3% on DraftKings. Like, I don't think they're phenomenal plays or anything. We do like guards against Milwaukee, but at their ownerships, I think we definitely want to take shots. It's hard to find guys with this much upside, this low owned on a 4-game slate.
Yep, exactly. And I mean, as I say this, I think the thing that's key for me here is that they're still both low owns. I'm not going to be surprised if Derek White has the better game than Drew Holiday, but I know for me the pendulum's kind of swinging in that opposite direction. You get Drew at a little bit of a discount off Derek White on both sides. He's actually been the more productive player, playing his full run of minutes now and again. Always a good matchup here against Milwaukee for guards right now. So, but yeah, just to touch on the Booker point, I think you nailed it. I mean, he's Point Booker now. He's the
Yeah.
point guard there. I don't know. Him not playing off ball, like we have seen him put up big numbers when he's the only guy there and he's running the point and he's scoring. But I mean, he's really deferring to Beal. I think they're trying to get his confidence up. Obviously, KD, when he gets the ball, it's pretty easy for him to score in the paint. It's just, I don't know. I think it's a chemistry thing. Obviously, these guys are super talented, but in terms of fantasy production, it is hurting Booker right now. There's no denying it, but his price did come down a little bit. So on a limited slate, I don't think it's insane to maybe go there, kind of hope for that outlier in a large field contest, but definitely not a priority right now. I'm with you. I think Durant is probably the safest of that big three. It's tough to get the Beal at his price too, honestly, just knowing he's so scoring dependent.
Yeah, and with that said, I do have. I'm exactly with the field on with Devin Booker on DraftKings. I have 11% in my exposures right now,
Yeah.
so I'm playing him a little bit. Just a little sprinkle. But KD is the son I'm most interested in. Another interesting guy here, Chris Middleton. He was 7K, and we're all about it. The 7,200 on FanDuel still seems pretty good coming in for. I mean, 21% ownership feels kind of light for that
Yeah.
price. The 7,800 on DraftKings a little tougher to work with, but I still don't mind taking shots there. And then Anthony Simons, I'm a little surprised he's not more chalky. 20% and 15%. The 7,400 price on DraftKings, he's been kind of bad recently, but he did have a ceiling game, I think 2 games ago. Maybe
Against
it's
the Nets. Yep. I remember it well.
adjusting to playing alongside Scoot Henderson, and Malcolm Brogdon has just been non-existent recently, so I'm not really even considering Malcolm Brogdon anymore. But these minutes, I mean, 27, 45, 23, 27. When he played 45 minutes, did this game, Brooklyn game, did it go to overtime?
It did actually.
Okay.
Bridges hit a three to send it to OT, and then the Nets got run off the floor in overtime. The Blazers won
Okay.
big, but yeah, Simons was on that game, and I mean that's the thing. It's tough with Portland right now because a lot of their games do blow out. And Simons is someone who they're not letting play deep into the fourth when that is the case. I mean, you look at his game log. That's the only game he got over 30 minutes, even though he played 45. All the other games are under 30, so I think that's the concern here. And I mean, Oklahoma City has a lot of good defenders with Dort in that backcourt, Williams, etc. So it is a tough matchup, but at the price, I do agree. I think he's a little bit underowned. I wanted to like Scoot today because there's not many guards in the 6K range, but it's tough for me to get to him too. I will say I think he's more likely to get some run in a blowout if this game does get out of hand. But at the same time, I mean, if the game blows out, he's probably not doing all that well to begin with. So just a situation, I don't know, just a rough matchup. But I do agree the ownership on Simon seems low, knowing that he was priced about 1K higher on both sites for most of the season.
And it's a 13-point spread, so we are approaching blowout territory. But I'm still going to be over the field on Anthony Simons, just hoping that they can keep it close. And with it being a 4-game slate, any edge we can find in the ownership, I think we just have to take advantage of it. So I think we're mildly interested in Scoot, not a priority at all. But Shaden Sharp down to 5,400 on DraftKings at 5% ownership.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel similarly as I do about Simons. I mean, is he going to start here? Probably not. But I think that's actually been good for him lately. He's producing much better when he's not on the floor with Grant and Simons, taking up a lot of the usage from that second unit, which was being run by Scoot, but is now run by Brogdon, and he's kind of deferring to Sharp, it seems. So, again, I'm getting these reads on the Blazers, and it's tough because, I don't know, either games are blowing out, and it's tough to really nail down the rotations, or they're still trying to mix and match things and figure out how these young guys are going to work together moving forward. But I agree. I mean, at the price, he's very appealing. We've seen again, him much more expensive at other points this season, and he does have a ceiling, kind of regardless of how this game goes.
And his minutes have been so low, but he still got 40 minutes in that OT game against the Nets. And so even though he only put up 31 fantasy points, I mean, we get 31 fantasy points from Shaden Sharp tonight. I'm going to be very happy with that. And with the potential for more, it's a minutes thing. If they don't get blown out, these guys will be on the court.
Yep.
Let's see. It's crazy to see how I don't think I've ever seen a sub 4K player be this high on the OF index before Jaden Hardy today, projected for
Wild.
89% ownership. So here's the thing. We've had guys projected for insane 90% ownerships before, and they never come in at 90%. And Jaden Hardy, like I said, I'm playing 100%. I don't think there's any reason to find a pivot or to not play him in every single lineup tonight. He's going to start. He's been fantastic. And so I don't know if before Jason Kidd was just kind of, because we've seen Kyrie and Luka out, and Jaden Hardy still didn't get all that run, but it seems like they're more comfortable giving the run now. He's projected for 28 minutes. I think he has potential to play more than that. What about this 5K price on FanDuel for him, though?
I honestly think it's fine. I like him a lot here. He's tough to get away from. He's still the most popular play over on FanDuel at 5K, which really tells you how good of a play he is over on DraftKings. I mean, this is an interesting matchup defensively. OG is probably going to be glued to Kyrie a decent amount. I still think Kyrie can go off. I still think he has a high ceiling, but I mean, the assists are going to be there. He's going to be dishing it to Hardy frequently. I was going to talk about THJ when we got the forwards. I love him here on FanDuel. I know he's 1K more than he is on DK, but you're getting him at 26% owned, and we have seen him have a very high ceiling at times with Luka out. So I don't know. I like the whole backcourt here. I mean, Green of this group is probably the one I'm having the most trouble trusting. He doesn't have guard eligibility on DK, but he is shooting guard eligible on FanDuel. Just been pretty inconsistent. So I really, really do like Hardy. He's pretty much a lock on DK, I'll say. I'd probably have him in all my lineups on FanDuel. Kyrie looks good, but there are pivots. Again, not the best matchup defensively, but he's been excellent lately. And then, yeah, Green as chalk makes sense at the price, but I don't know. He's not a guy who always demands a ton of usage. I'd almost rather go to THJ coming off the bench.
No, I agree, and that's pretty good transition into the forwards. I do want to mention Josh Giddey. So he's been off and on. He's coming in for low ownership, 64 and 6,800, but his minutes have been kind of weird. And I think they're giving some more of the ball handling responsibility over to Jalen Williams. And so Jalen Williams is the guy I'm really interested in from the other side of this game. Let's take a look here. But I mean, we can see Josh Green, top of DK value. He was fantastic last time. But I agree, he's the guy I'm having the most trouble with. What do I do with Josh Green? I have 50% right now. Looks like it's going to be over the field. I wouldn't be surprised if he came in at like 60% or something like that, though.
Yeah.
Then we see Derek Jones and Tim Hardaway right after these guys. I'm getting to a bunch of Derek Jones. I don't mind him, 5,600 on FanDuel. Is that something you're going to get to a lot of?
Yeah, I will. Jones pretty aggressive on the offensive end. He does a lot. Like with Green, I'm not as confident that he's going to be doing a ton when he's out there. So I am getting to a lot of Jones. I did want to bring this up though because you're talking about OKC. So interestingly enough, it seems like yes, they're getting Jalen Williams more ball handling, but they're also trying to get Carson Wallace more minutes lately. A pretty talented young player, but I've seen his minutes continue to go up. When he is on the floor, he's been solid. I don't love him at the price, but if you're desperate for guard value and you're already loaded up on Mavericks, like you can't fit more than 4 on FanDuel or 5 on DK, whatever. I don't think Wallace is a crazy play, and if this game were to blow out, I do think he has additional upside here in a very soft matchup. So, not a play for low risk contests, certainly. But Carson Wallace is a very talented young player, and I do think they want to see what they have in him as the season continues to progress.
Well, so Lou Dort got benched in the second half. Cason Wallace started ahead of him, which blows my mind because Miami has Tyler Harrow. Like they have a player that Lou Dort can guard, but they're more comfortable going to him. I'm pretty sure he hit a big three. And so, his price is up 1K from yesterday, which is just such a dumb price increase because he didn't even have a good game. But yeah, if him and Jalen Williams, it's just I think the main thing is that it's taking away from Josh Giddey. And so just not on Josh Giddey today, not really interested in Lou Dort for fear of maybe he gets benched again. And like, yeah, they have Anthony Simons who they can stick him on, but not something I'm super interested in today.
Right.
I want to say they called up one of their G League guys too, OKC. Dieng? Did they call up Dieng? And so it just muddies up the rotation even more.
Yeah, I mean, they're a deep team. They get a lot of young players. Like their G League, it's pretty fluid how they kind of call guys up and send them back down. So definitely a touchy spot if you are loading up on value or anything like that. Probably just go to the Dallas guys and feel safe. But again, if you're maxing out Dallas and you want more value, you want to go stars and scrubs, maybe get AD and KD in the late game, something like that, or I don't know, Giannis, who I really do actually like tonight. Then maybe some of these guys make sense, but they're not safe plays by any stretch. These OKC guys coming off the bench.
And so, sorting the model by DK value, the model's telling us that we really don't have to find value outside of the Mavericks. It likes Josh Hart. I think Josh Hart's fine. His ownership is reasonable. His price is good. But right after that, Giannis, AD, LeBron, Julius Randle, and then my guy Jalen Williams. And so I think we just play the Dallas chalk and then mix in some of these higher price guys. And there's no Al Horford on Boston. And for some reason, Giannis struggles against Al Horford. And so at 12% ownership, 12K on DK, I think we have enough value to fit him in pretty reasonably today. So I like getting to Giannis. And then I'm actually on LeBron over AD today. Slightly lower ownership. And I don't know, something about Phoenix doesn't give up like a lot of points to centers. I know Vika Zubac just kind of decimated them the other day, and AD is much better than Zubac, but like taking shots on LeBron today.
No, I think that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you probably have a better finger on the pulse when it comes to which of these two Lakers to go with in certain matchups. And yeah, I mean, Nurkic is a pretty good defender. Davis has had good games against him, but you're getting LeBron a little bit cheaper, probably a little bit lower owned. So I do think it makes plenty of sense. But yeah, man, it's interesting. I am with you on Jalen Williams. I do think he's really solid, even as the price continues to come up. The one fear there, obviously, is the blowout risk. And then you brought up someone else. I'm trying to remember. Josh Hart, I do not like. I just want to say this,
Nice.
especially at this ownership, way too high in my opinion. 20% on DK, 33 over on FanDuel. He's not even hitting value at 5K. I'd rather go to DiVincenzo, who also has guard eligibility. At least you know he's taking shots. Sure, Hart has upside if he's getting blocks and steals. Maybe he gets hot here in a pretty good matchup against the thin Dallas team, but I would much rather play the starter. Thibs definitely relies on him. I know the minutes have been somewhat inconsistent, but we're looking at a couple blowouts in there in his game log. I think that's why maybe people are not as keen to DiVincenzo tonight. But I definitely would prefer to have him and his upside in a lineup over Josh Hart, and they're priced similarly. So,
hey, I don't hate it. Talking me into lowering my Josh Hart exposure.
yeah, I don't get it honestly. Like, what are people seeing? Am I missing something? Like, I know the front court's thin right now. But yeah, I mean, he's like under 20 fantasy points, like 3 out of 5 games, it seems. Like, I don't really understand.
Well, we'll see how he comes in because I'm pretty sure I saw some ownership projections around the industry, and they actually have him projected for more ownership than we do at the 21%. So we'll see. Maybe it's people trying to find a run back to the Dallas guys, but just pay up for Brunson or Julius Randle. If the game isn't close, I think Jaden Hardy still gets a blowout run. Kyrie won't. Maybe Josh Green does. Tim Hardaway won't. Derek Jones won't. And so, yeah, but you called out Jalen Brunson as a pretty good point guard pay up, like getting there, and Julius Randle. Dante DiVincenzo showing up pretty good in value as well. Not too far below Hart. We'll see how their ownerships come in, though. Basically the same price.
Yeah, that one confuses me.
And then what about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown? Didn't really touch on them too much. Are we interested in the other Celtics besides Drew and Derek White?
I mean, at low ownership, we should be, especially Tatum. I mean, he's really been producing at a high level, consistently over 50 fantasy points right now. I think it's tough to prioritize him over some of the other pay-ups on this slate, but I think the field's kind of agreeing with that. Taking a look at ownership right now, I mean, 5% owned on both sides, definitely too low. Brown's fine. I think he's good here as well, but I mean, if you can get to Tatum at low ownership, I love him. Obviously, Brown's cheaper, similar upside, checks all the boxes, but I mean, 5% Tatum on a 4-game slate in a game with a 240 plus total. Like, what are we doing? Like, we should definitely mix in some Tatum here where we can.
Oh, I love it. And on a similar note, KD against the Lakers coming in at 5%. I mentioned he's the only Phoenix stud I'm really interested in. 9,600, 9,800, and he has been basically a model of consistency, if I'm not mistaken. So don't mind taking shots on Tatum and Durant. LeBron is still going to be my priority, but definitely want to mix these guys in. And I am playing a bunch of Anthony Davis. I'm not like fading Anthony Davis. I have more LeBron than AD. It might be positions that's doing it, but KD's been fantastic. I mean, yeah, he's had some low 40s games, but he's had a 74, 53, 54. Like, we're going to be super happy if he puts up 53 fantasy points tonight.
Yeah, and he's sub 10K. So we're
Yeah.
comparing him to guys like Davis and Giannis,
Hmm.
but he's much cheaper. So
Yeah.
really do like him. Same kind of play as Tatum. I mean, the one thing with Tatum is he is definitely the number one option there. You could
Mhm.
argue that maybe Booker is, but I mean, we just had that conversation. Right? He's
Yeah.
deferring to KD right now. So I'm with you. It's just they're both really low owned. If I'm picking between the two, I do prefer Tatum. But if Tatum draws some ownership and KD ends up lower owned, then I very gladly pivot, especially getting exposure to that late game. They're both awesome here. Honestly, as far as pay up goes, like looking at ownership, they both make a ton of sense. I really like them both.
Are there any other forwards you wanted to touch on? We have a ton of questions. It looks like center is the big talking point today.
Yeah, I mean, one I'll bring up is Torian Prince, just because Rui's probably going to be out again. Obviously, kind of needs to hit a couple threes to get going, to hit value, etc. But I do trust his minutes and his rotations more than some of these other secondary guys for the Lakers. Not going to get a huge ceiling out of him, but I think if you're looking for like a last piece in, and maybe you don't want to play a chalky Josh Hart, very obvious pivot to me is a Torian Prince. But yeah, I mean, we could use this to transition into centers. Hartenstein does have power forward eligibility on FanDuel. He is priced up to 7,700, but bigs against Dallas continues to be a thing. I really do like him here. Only center eligible on DK, but 6,500 is too cheap.
Yeah, I'm going to be playing a bunch of Hartenstein over on DraftKings. His ownership is really low, and I'll mention like Dwight Powell on the other side at 4,200 coming in for 44%. I
Mhm.
like we've talked about Dwight Powell on the show before. He hits a ceiling a couple times a year, but 44%. This is one of the easiest fades that I've had this season. Like if he burns me, he burns me. But I mean, if he puts up 22, 23 fantasy points, which is around what his projection is today, like we're not winning a GPP. You know.
No, and honestly, like on FanDuel, where you could only play four Mavericks, like I want Kyrie, I want Hardy, I
Mhm.
want THJ, I want Jones, maybe Green. Like Powell isn't at the top of that list for me at all, so I'm pretty comfortable getting away from him. I will say, I mean, with the forward eligibility on FanDuel, he is more appealing over there, even with the price hike. But over 50% owned right now, I think it's very easy to get different. Just playing some of the other Mavs pieces and just leaving Powell out.
Like so it's not even like he's in line to get all the minutes. He hasn't cleared 30 minutes, and Derek Lively's been out, right?
Yeah, Lively's been out.
And so they're very comfortable just not playing Dwight Powell. And so to me, this is the easiest fade on the slate. If you want to fade a Maverick, like Dwight Powell is definitely at the top of the list.
Totally
Sure,
agree.
he could put up 24, and because he's going to be so highly owned, he could still end up in the winning lineup. Someone hits that combo. But it seems like such an easy player not to play today.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's not like the Knicks are big after Hartenstein either. Obviously, their front court's pretty decimated right now.
And then is Isaiah Hardenstein a lock at 7.7 on FanDuel? So he's not a lock. And I made a mistake last time we were talking about Hardenstein when we saw this new price. I said, don't play him on FanDuel. And he went fuck off.
Like
Super
6 blocks or
frustrating.
something. Yeah.
So that was a mistake that I made saying that. I will say, like, I think his price is a little bit too high, but he's a play at 6% over on FanDuel. He's shown his ceiling enough. And like Nick said, we do like centers against Dallas.
Mhm.
And then thoughts on Nurkic. So Nurkic has been super off and on lately. He might be more inconsistent than Devin Booker's been, but I
Yeah.
can't say that he's a guy I'm super interested in today. I've talked about AD before. He's one of the best defensive centers in the NBA, but he doesn't necessarily stop other big men from scoring fantasy points.
Mhm.
I mean, Nurkic didn't even get into foul trouble, and Clippers, like, I'm pretty sure Vika Zubac played more than 21 minutes. So even with the Clippers' tendency to go small, it just Nurkic's minutes are not secure. He hasn't been playing great. I'll say he's a GPP play, and that's probably about it.
Yeah, I looked earlier. I mean, he is drawing a lot of ownership, especially on FanDuel. And going through game logs, I mean, this is a small sample of data, but his two last games against the Lakers couldn't get over 25 fantasy points. So, really not rushing to him here, especially if he's going to be popular. On FanDuel, 33% owned. I mean, the price is appealing. People want a piece of that late game, but very, very comfortable getting away from that.
Yeah, same. I mean, similar to Dwight Powell. I mean, it seems if you fade Nurk and Dwight Powell, and yeah, it's possible that one of them gets there or both of them get there, but it's already so much leverage over the rest of the field if they don't get there.
Mhm.
And then we have Chet or Porzingis or both for DraftKings. So big fan of Chet, 11% ownership. Porzingis 4% ownership at 8,400. I think they're both fine at their price. Their ownerships might be a little bit low. I think they're good GPP shots.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Porzingis is the safer of the two. Chet just a little bit inconsistent right now, especially with some blowout risk there. But he is a little bit cheaper, I think. So yeah, I'm fine getting to either. Chet's more popular though. Like I think I would rather get to Porzingis of the two if I have to pick, but they're both in play again. A lot of the centers on tonight's slate, like with Nurk and Powell, are over owned. So just getting to any of these other guys with upside makes some sense.
And then Brook Lopez at 6.5 on FanDuel. Is Brook Lopez top of DK value today? No, he's number 2 after Dwight Powell. So Brook Lopez back to being the model darling. FanDuel value, he's still number 3 after the 2 guys I told you to fade. I don't mind taking shots on him. It's like he has not, I don't think he's had a ceiling game in a bit.
No.
Going against Porzingis, I mean, it's not a super tough spot. Porzingis is pretty good, but
No, I mean Boston does a good job kind of keying in on Giannis. Like Giannis is going to get his tonight. Don't get me wrong, but in matchups where teams actually scheme well, that's where we usually see Lopez kind of get loose. And he had over 40 fantasy points his last game against Boston. I don't know if Horford was in that game, but I like the matchup. I like the total. I think the minutes are going to be there for him. They don't seem as keen on playing Bobby Portis consistent minutes right now, which
yeah.
actually helps Lopez more than anything. I think as Middleton gets healthy too, that's probably affecting Portis' minutes more than maybe Lopez, but I like Lopez at the price. I'd much rather get to him than, say, Powell or Nurk at their respective ownerships.
I mean, Lopez is seeing pretty good minutes. I don't think we're used to seeing 37, 35, 36, 38, 38 minutes from Brook Lopez. I mean, we have him projected for 33, which it seems like a really high projection for Brook Lopez, but he's been playing those minutes a lot recently. And the model is saying he's a good play at low ownership. So I'm not going to get there as much on DraftKings, but I have a little bit. I have more than the 6%. So
I like it.
is Lillard going overlooked? Lillard always goes overlooked, but it's like you can randomly just have a nuke game out of nowhere. His ownership 17 and 22. What do we think about that?
He's fine because the price is down, but he's another guy we really haven't seen a ceiling from in a long time. I have trouble expecting that we're going to see it here against Boston, where he's going to be drawing a lot of Jaylen Brown. Really tough matchup. And I know we don't want to go too deep into these one-on-one matchups in today's NBA. It's pretty much positionless basketball, but he just hasn't really flashed that ceiling. Maybe it comes out tonight at home in a huge game against Boston. I mean, he does do well under pressure, but I don't know. I think you can mix him in, but it's tough to prioritize him over some of these other spots. We got Brunson, we got Kyrie. Really like SGA if you can get to him too. So he's fine, but again, there's just other spots I prefer to pay up at. But yeah, the field I think feels the same way. He's more popular than I thought he'd be though, Lillard. So
Yeah, and like you guys know, I hate chasing these ceiling outcomes. Like Damian Lillard is a superstar, right? But I hate chasing these ceiling outcomes when a guy hasn't been playing well, especially in a tough matchup when the rest of the field is getting there. And so I would prefer to be under the field on Damian Lillard.
I tend to
I
agree.
got exactly 0%. Oh no, I'm sorry. I have a 15%. So I am slightly under the field on DraftKings. That's probably going to adjust a little bit. Like I'll say his price is good, but not someone I'm excited to get to. I'd rather just try and find the extra salary and get to Giannis, who has basically the same value score, but a much higher OF index.
Yep. I do want to get your take on center here. With Rui probably out, I think he's doubtful. I kind of want to get back to a little bit of Christian Wood. I think
Yeah,
he's probably going to get in here and see some minutes. 4,300 on DK. Been pretty good fantasy point per minute. I know he's not helping your Lakers win games necessarily, but with Rui out, I was surprised to see the minutes go to him instead of some of the other wings. So I'm wondering if you have any sort of inside info on this, but I actually think he looks okay today.
I don't know. Something about him and D'Angelo Russell pick and roll off the bench should be our top play when LeBron and AD are off the court. Like Ham, you guys know I don't like Ham. This guy's a ham pockets.
Yeah.
But Christian Wood, I mean, 4,300 over on DraftKings. I am taking shots over there. The 5K on FanDuel, he does have the power forward
Power
eligibility, which
forward.
is nice. So I don't mind that 11% ownership over there either.
It's a Powell pivot, really, more than
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. And the thing is, like, I feel like he has a safer floor and a higher ceiling than Powell, and he's going to hit his ceiling outcome more often than Powell. So, yeah, I don't mind Christian Wood today.
Yeah, I wanted to ask. I know you don't love the player, but I think, yeah, with Rui out, I was surprised to see him take up all those minutes. And I mean, even before Rui went down, it seems like he is a regular part of this rotation now. You guys got to get rid of Jackson Hayes, in my opinion. Why is he on that team? But
Oh man, he was okay for like 3 minutes a game, and now just can we find someone else?
Biombo's a free agent.
Oh man, it's like
Uh,
going from one weird situation to a slightly. I mean, Biombo's
I,
better than Hayes, but
Biombo's better than Hayes, and the Nets just lost Day'Ron Sharp too to an injury. He's going to be out for a while. I
uh,
think Biombo's going to sign somewhere pretty quick, honestly.
Sharp's out, huh? I guess we're going to be playing Trent and Watford over the next couple of slates. We'll see if they're on the slate tomorrow.
Yeah, it was interesting today. I need to go back and look, but Harry Giles was in the rotation. I didn't get to pay as much attention to that game as I wanted to, but yeah, they're pretty thin. It's more likely than not. I know we're talking about the Nets; they're not even on the slate. But Royce O'Neal and DFS are going to play some center minutes. So uh, yeah, we'll talk about them when they're on the slate.
Well, I hope you're on the next Nets show with me or Eric, so you can break that down for us.
Yeah.
Is there a projection for Kristaps Porzingis minutes? Yeah, 33 minutes seems pretty reasonable. I mean, I don't know that we're expecting much more than that, but
Yeah.
I mean, 8,400 on DraftKings. He played 38 last game, 35, 30. So maybe that projection is slightly high, but without Al Horford, they could probably get there pretty easily.
Yeah, and I know it's not a great matchup, but again, with Horford out, that does secure minutes for him. Um, Yeah, I like Porzingis a lot looking at the ownership right now. And again, the matchup does scare me, but compared to some of the other centers where this ownership is concentrating, I think it makes a lot of sense to get exposure to Porzingis tonight.
And Tim Hardaway narrative. Man, if you can find any reason to play, I do not like this guy. But 5,300, it's really hard to ignore. He is playing against the Knicks. I don't know. Was he unhappy when he was in New York?
I don't know. I think that, like, there was a time when the Knicks were like one of the worst teams in the league, and he was like their guy for a little bit. I don't know. I'd have to go back and figure out the moves they made to get him and get rid of him, whatever. Um, was it the Randall? I don't even know at this point. But I liked Tim Hardaway when Luke is out because he's going to stagger minutes with Kyrie. And yes, everyone loves Hardy, young, talented player, but I know kid's going to trust Hardaway Jr. over Hardy in key moments and things like that. He's going to get a ton of shots with that second unit as soon as he checks in, and I expect him to be the first player off the bench. So I like Tim Hardaway. Honestly, I don't like how popular he is, though. On a lot of these other slates, we were seeing like Derek Jones drawing even more ownership. Grant Williams getting a lot of ownership. He's not starting anymore, which is why he's not going to really draw that high of an ownership percentage. But yeah, I like Tim Hardaway. I've actually had a lot of success playing him this season in these spots with Luca out, but it seems like the field's there tonight, so it's a little bit less appealing. But yeah, I mean, he's like I don't know. He thinks he's better than he is, which is why I think people don't like him. But in fantasy, sometimes that's a good thing if a guy's going to take a bunch of shots, even if he's bricking them. So yeah, he fits that mold. Excuse me.
Like, I will say, I understand why his ownership is so high at 55% over on DraftKings because the price is incorrect. But like, this is so I've talked about I don't like chasing these ceiling outcomes from guys who are shooting reliant when the rest of the field is chasing it. This is slightly different. But it is notable that his shot attempts have been down the last few games, and Kyrie and Luca have missed various games in here. I would say Jaden Hardy playing a lot probably cuts into his potential shot attempts. I mean, he played 30 minutes last game. I think both of the studs were in, but he only took 6 shots. And Luca leaves a lot behind, but I think that slack is going to be picked up more by Harden and Kyrie. And so I feel like I want to be under the field on Tim Hardaway, but it's really hard to say fade him because he is too cheap.
Yeah, and like I said, on FanDuel, the main reason I like him, even though he's more expensive, is the lower ownership. Like, I think he's a good
Yeah.
pivot off of some of the chalkier, the Green or the Powell, if you are getting 3 or 4 Mavs. But where he's like 50% plus on DK, I don't mind getting away from him again. He is very scoring dependent.
And then Beal getting the minutes at 7.1 on FanDuel, but not paying off the price. It's kind of similar to like Devin Booker. They don't know what to do yet. Kevin Durant's been the only consistent piece, and I'm not excited about playing Bradley Beal tonight. I'd be surprised if I had any in my exposures by the time lock starts. I have 0 right now, so
Yeah, if he was like 6,500 or something, I'd be more interested. But yeah, I mean, he's playing the minutes every night. He's making his shots. He looks good, but all he does is score. So it's tough for him to have those games where he's really putting up big fantasy numbers.
I will say he's under 10% on DraftKings, so I don't hate it as a GPP shot. And then 23% on FanDuel. It doesn't sound egregious or anything at kind of the same price. I mean, if he puts up like 34, it could be enough to be in the winning lineup, but it's just, I don't know. I question the ceiling, so.
Here's a hot take. I would rather play Grayson Allen than Bradley Beal tonight.
I was just looking at Grayson Allen, like 31% ownership, 5,400. That sounds great to me. Grayson Allen, pretty good chalk play over on FanDuel.
Yeah, just a little too cheap. But I mean, even with this team healthy and the big three trying to figure out who should have more usage than who, Allen's just kind of been like a steady piece there. I mean, he's hitting his corner threes. He's been involved on defense. I mean, he gets assists, etc. So I don't mind Grayson Allen.
Stack the Thunder tonight. So I don't
Eh,
know who we're stacking exactly. I don't. Just scrolling through my lineups, I don't even like. Maybe I have a lineup with SGA and Jalen Green or Jalen Williams. I mean,
Jalen
or
Williams.
Jalen Williams and Chet. But I'm not really playing anyone except for Jalen, Chet, and SGA. And with a 13-point spread, I don't think it's great to game stack the largest spread on the slate. Like it has worked out a couple times recently, but it's not something that I'm going to consciously try to get to.
hmm Yeah, I wouldn't be stacking them. And I mean, the thing is, when you're paying up for SGA, you want him taking all the shots. And there are going to be games where he gets there as well as, say, Chad or Williams, but it's rare that all three will. I do think you could play Williams with SGA pretty comfortably,
Hmm.
but all three in a lineup feels a little bit thin.
Yeah, I don't think I would play all three, and because it's like if you're playing all three of these guys, then Portland is in it. And who are you stacking from Portland? Simons, Duop Reith. We didn't talk about Duop Reith.
Yeah, I
Actually, don't
guess we'd
mind him
have to.
today. I
Yeah.
said, I don't know if Jayhawk's watching, but I messaged him last time that Duop Reith is one of the better center values on the slate, and he didn't message me back. Duop Reith put up like 4 fantasy points or something. But at 5%, I mean, this is a large field play only. I don't hate him. I'm not recommending to play him, but I just want to mention him. We haven't projected for 25. He has potential to play more. And then Shaden Sharp at 5%. 5,400 at 5% sounds pretty good to me for Shaden Sharp.
Yeah, I like Sharp a lot, and I do think he'd probably get some run in a blowout as well. The thing with Reith, I think Jabari Walker was out a couple of those bigger games he
Hmm.
has. I know Walker's not a center, but I think actually Walker is coming off 3 games he missed. I don't think he's on the injury report, but that gives me some pause in going to Reith. But yeah, I don't know. It's not a terrible play at the price.
Well, speaking of Jabari Walker, is this someone you're looking at today? I mean, he's getting basically no ownership, and his price is pretty similar to a lot of the other guys that we don't like.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind landing on him. It's just a little scary coming off the bench. He had been starting a lot. If you're landing on him, I think he's fine. I can't call him a priority though. Here, just knowing this team's healthy. A lot of the big Jabari Walker games came with Tybal out. This is actually the healthiest the Blazers have been almost all season. I think. I know Aiton's still out, but other than Aiton, I mean, when have we seen Sharp, Brogdon, Tybal, Henderson, Simons all healthy on the same night? It's been a while, so it's tough for me to really nail down these rotations until we see them all healthy for a few games. But if you're landing on Walker, I do think he probably plays 25 ish minutes and. Yeah, I mean, if it blows out, he's another guy who could just get run into the end of the game. So don't mind him. Not a priority at all, though.
I agree with you though. He's a last type. He's a last play in type play.
hmm
And then so we got some discussion about the Brunson narrative playing against Dallas, and so we've talked about these narratives before. Like they're fun, right? But I
hmm
wouldn't do more than maybe like a 5% adjustment to whatever you're doing for these. Homecoming narratives. I don't know what you want to call it. Like, I don't think
Yeah,
Brunson's upset that Dallas, like, let him go, right?
yeah. I mean, they were gonna have trouble paying him. I mean, it's funny though because they let him go, then they brought in Kyrie, who's like kind of the same deal. But I don't know. I think he's fine. I really do like Brunson, but it's more the matchup than anything. I mean, Dallas isn't a great defensive team. They're thin. And I mean, Brunson's price is down a little bit, so he checks all the boxes. If you want to play for the narrative, sure. But the reason he's going to do well here isn't just the narrative. I mean, he's a guy who puts up pretty good scores every single night. I don't think he needs this game to get up necessarily, but I'm sure he's got a few friends and fans in the stands that he hasn't seen in a while. But again, I mean, it's fun. It's fun to talk about. It's fun to cheer for. But I just like him as a play here, and I think that's the reason to play him more than any sort of narrative.
So I will say, I mentioned that my 5 highest exposed players are Mavericks right now. That's probably going to change. But Julius Randle is actually the next player up, and
Mm,
then I'm still with the field on Jalen Brunson. I'm way over the field on Randle, and I have to think it's because of all the value that I'm getting with Jaden Hardy. I have Kyrie Irving in a lot of my guard spots, and so I'm thinking that's the way that a lot of the field is going to build tonight. Where Randle's just like we haven't projected for the same, but it would not surprise me if Randle just naturally comes in higher owned than Brunson, just because it's easier to fit him in a lineup. Being power forward center, power forward on FanDuel, where Brunson is only a point guard, the same position that Irving and Hardy are. And so I think Brunson is slight leverage. And I know the model is projecting these ownerships, but it would not surprise me if a lot of the field is building the same way I am, where they're just naturally getting to more Randall.
Yeah, and I say this just maybe to play devil's advocate more than anything, but do you think the model's accounting for people wanting to play the narrative as well? Because I could see both of their ownerships inflating a little bit.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that Jalen Brunson's ownership is coming in as high as he is. I thought that, I mean, just based on the way that I built my lineups already, I thought that would kind of be the default build: play a bunch of Mavericks and then Julius Randle as the as the bring back. So,
Oh man.
Kyrie's usage is the exact same with Luka, and when Luka is out, yeah, I mean that's fine. Kyrie has been on a tear recently, even with Luka in. He's been pretty good, but with Luka, there is something to that though. Like a bunch of the field is wanting to get to Kyrie because Luka's out, assuming that Kyrie's usage goes up. And if that's true, that his usage stays the same, then he's probably being overplayed today. But at 9K, he's still a pretty easy. He's a clear easy stud to play tonight, right?
Yeah, and I think I don't know if it was with you the last time this situation came up, but I brought it up, and then Kyrie went off, and it was like, yeah, I don't know. The thing is, he has been so good even with Luka in. Maybe he's not seeing a ton of extra usage here, but I don't know. It's like he's seeing more minutes though, which is interesting. Over 35 minutes these last two games, 39 and 40 in competitive matchups. So maybe he's not seeing extra usage, but in some of those games with Luka where Luka's really going off, he's capped around 30. It's been a while since we've seen that. So I don't know. There's definitely something to be said for that, Sean V. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
And I do think he might end up over owned. But on DK, 9K is too cheap. On FanDuel, only 30%. Not as popular as I thought he would be. So I'm still very comfortable getting to a lot of Kyrie here.
And so I've been taking Kyrie Irving's rebounds under like every day recently, and he's been getting 9.9988. This is unusual because he didn't even get to those numbers at any other point this season. And so, can it continue? Maybe. Will it continue against New York? I'd like to think not, but it does create a little bit more of a safer floor for him. Yeah, and the stocks are kind of insane recently too.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually been involved on defense more than we're used to. And yeah, the rebound thing I think is pretty clear. It's just Dwight Powell's like they're big right now, no Lively in there. I mean, they pulled Grant Williams out of the starting lineup, who was taking a lot of rebounding from the other guys. So, I don't know that he's going to keep up the 8-9 average. That's a little bit ridiculous, but it does secure his floor that he is getting more boards lately.
And it looks like we're getting more narrative out of the Knicks. Julius Randle is from Dallas. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't mind playing these narratives slightly, but it's probably, I don't know, I would stick to maybe adjusting by 5% at the most if you're doing like hometown narratives, like something like that.
And I just like bigs against Dallas. And Randall kind of fits that mold. So if you're not getting the Hartenstein, I think Randall looks really good. Either or both of these guys should go off here. I mean, every single big has been crushing Dallas lately. It's just as good of a matchup as it gets right now.
And like, so saying something like, we talk about we do want to target bigs against Dallas, but saying things like Randall usually always goes for 50 there, at least 50. It's just the teams are different, and so I don't buy into that kind of stuff as much. Like the Dallas team that Randall's going against today is different than the Dallas teams he was going against before. Even the players around Randall are different.
Right.
So I'm not trying to talk you out of Randall. I think he's a great play, and this team, him and Brunson, seem like more valuable fantasy players since OG Anunoby's gotten there. That don't have RJ Barrett taking away 20 shots from them every game. And so they're both great plays. Like I said, I'm playing a ton of Randall today. I'm going to be over the field. So he's a good play either way.
Agreed.
And then Cornette usually gets minutes with Horford out. So I was looking at Cornette earlier, and I just couldn't get there. Were you thinking about him at all?
No, because of the price more than anything.
Yeah.
4,700 is just too much. Like I brought up Christian Wood, who's around the same price, or even cheaper. I think there was someone else too, but yeah, I just can't get to him at that price. It's inflated beyond what it should be, in my opinion. And yeah, Cornette will get run here. He is the backup center. I know we talked about Brissett in certain matchups, but he's the guy you go to when Hauser's out, and or Tatum, not when Horford's out. So yeah, as far as the bench goes, maybe Pritchard or Hauser get some extra run here, but I really don't have much interest in the Celtics bench. Pritchard priced up as well, so he's pretty easy to just not play.
With Cornet, I will say the 4,300 price on FanDuel, I don't mind it, but the fact that he's center only, like
Oh
it's
yeah,
just I don't think we want to take up our center spot with a cheap guy today. We have enough pay up centers that we're interested in.
no.
Lock is in about 1 hour. First game starts at 7:30 Eastern today, so we're gonna go a few minutes over here. But I think it's pretty easy to just start our build with Hardy, and then do we want to put in Irving in there right away?
Yeah, Hardy Irving, I think we can agree on. Those two are obvious in my opinion. And then I know you're kind of torn on THJ. I definitely like him more than Green, but if we want to just go Derek Jones and kind of split the difference, I'm fine with that.
I like that. So we'll go Derek Jones, and then do we want to run? Do we want to run Julius Randle as the run back here?
Yeah, let's do it. I like Randall or Brunson, but
Three
yeah,
Dallas guys.
probably easier to go with Randall.
And now, because Dallas is so decimated, I don't think that we have to run a run back. I'm just naturally getting to that in a lot of my lineups. But don't feel like you have to play Randall. It's just, yeah, Kyrie's expensive, but Hardy, Derek Jones, the other guys are not expensive. So I think it's okay if you don't.
Agreed.
Grant Williams. Yeah, we didn't really talk about Grant Williams from Dallas. I guess he would be like the contrarian guy to get to when everyone else is chalk, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was even a playoff game for Boston a couple years back where he hit like 7 threes. Like when this guy gets hot, he does have a ceiling. It's just coming off the bench. Like I can't even project him for 20 minutes and feel good
Yeah.
about it right now. So, not really for me. It's not insane to maybe get to him, but it's definitely like a very high risk, large field type play. Like his minutes seem to be dwindling for now, for whatever reason. I'm sure they ramp him up as they get closer to the playoffs if they're there, but yeah, it's weird. Williams has kind of been limited lately.
I will say, if you put together a lineup you like and Grant Williams at 3,600 on DraftKings makes it work, I don't hate it. But
Hmm.
other than that, even with his low ownership, not terribly interested. It's just his usage has always been low, and I was kind of excited about playing him for a little bit, but then that went away.
Right.
Outside of this beautiful Knicks Dallas game, who else are we looking at?
I think we want to get some of this Boston Bucks game. I like Drew. I don't know that we could afford Giannis. If we didn't play a center yet, maybe Brolo. I like Lopez. Um, but yeah, I mean, I do really like that game. High total in Milwaukee.
Do we
Um,
want to go with so Brick Lopez and is Hartenstein near the top of the model? Brick Lopez is near the top of the model. Do we want to just go with the model Brick Lopez?
yeah, let's go Lopez. And like, I love Hartenstein here, but since we
Hmm.
already have Randall, maybe we just hope Randall has a ceiling game on rebounds or something. Like,
Hmm.
not telling anyone not to play them together. They should both crush, but as a tiebreaker, maybe just go with the guy from the other game and hope they both have ceilings.
And in the chat, is that Precious Achua? Um, I mean, we haven't projected for 12 minutes. He's 3,400. Yeah, sure. There's situations where he could get more than 12 minutes, but this guy wasn't even on my radar today.
Yeah,
He had a good game last time, 20 minutes in the blowout, but I don't want to depend on the blowout run to get him in the game, you know?
no, I totally agree. I don't think I'm going to get there.
5,800. I mean, we have a little bit to work with. Do we want to throw in Anthony Simons at this cheap price?
I'll say he's high risk if we go with Simons. I don't mind it though.
Yeah. Yeah, Simons, Jalen Williams as a run back, not enough.
I think the safer play over Simons would be Drew, but
Okay, let's go. Yeah, let's go with Drew. We save a couple $100 as well. Boston, Milwaukee run back, and then I'm trying to look at this. Like, which of these games is going to be the most overlooked? Because I'm getting to Braun and AD, but other than that, this Lakers Phoenix game might be a little bit overlooked. Do we want to throw in your Wood call?
yeah, Wood or Prince. I think they're both cheap.
Let's throw in Wood at 4,300. That leaves us 6K for forwards. I mean, it doesn't fit perfectly. I don't hate Grayson Allen as the last guy in, but
Yeah,
Shaden Sharp 5,400. If we maybe pay up
yeah,
to Hartenstein instead of Lopez, so we don't leave that much salary on the board. Hardaway's 5,300. It's okay to play 4 Dallas players today. I did cap it at 4 over on DraftKings, and I'm pretty sure 4 Dallas players on FanDuel is fine too, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, we have some options here, but I think the main pieces to start with are Hardy. Irving is the first stud to start with. I understand if you want to get away from Kyrie today, though. I mean, we have enough pivots in the guard range, or just find another cheap guard and pay up at the other positions. I guess I do think the field is going to be building more with the pay up forwards. Just a lot of them are going to go to Kyrie and Hardy, so keep that in mind for overall lineup construction.
Yep. Hot take here. I think more and more, the more I think about it, I'm going to really try to get to some Tatum here. His ownership doesn't seem to be moving. Coming into the show, I wanted to get to Giannis, but if I'm kind of trying to fade some of the chalky value, it's going to be tough to do. So Tatum might be my stand tonight on FanDuel at only 5% owned. I really do like his upside.
So we can make this work. Tatum leaves us 4,500 for a center and a guard. It's like, so we can throw in Christian Wood at center and probably find two guys to fill in the guard and utility, but I don't know that I want Christian Wood to be my only center over on DraftKings tonight. We have a lot of good center options. And we just got news. Jabari Walker ruled out.
Okay.
DeAndre Ayton ruled out. Malcolm Brogdon ruled out.
Oh, wow.
And so it's like
Scoot.
there's still blowout risk, yeah, for Anthony Simons, but I think this benefits Scoot Henderson a little bit more.
Yeah.
6K, I don't mind it, and Shaden Sharp too.
Yep, I think both of them look good, and I kind of poo-pooed the Durop Reith call earlier, but now with Walker out, I mean that was my reason not to get to Reith, so I do think Reith makes some sense here now too.
Yeah, and Reith is a pure GPP shot. You can pay a little bit more and get to Brook Lopez or Hardenstein. But I mean, if you understand the risk you're taking playing Reith, it's not going to work out most of the time. But if it does, maybe you win a GPP.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we could get the model refresh instantly for that Portland news. It doesn't look like we're going to, but that's why you should sign up for the site. Occupy Fantasy, $7 a week gets you access to the model. It's $1 a day. It's very worth it if you, even if you're a very casual DFS player. It only takes one time for it to pay for itself. And then we have Jayhawk in the Discord. It's going to start in about 22 minutes from now. Instructions in the description below if you want to be a part of that. We're all working out the same data, but it's really good to get a different person's perspective on certain things, and it's a little bit more intimate with the Q&A. So, yeah, hop in there. We'd love to have you. And, we're not going to get this update before we get out of here, but I think Scoot and Shaden Sharp both get a boost, and then Anthony Simons I was already interested in, but I think he's the one who we fear the most of the blowout, losing minutes to blowout, so...
Yeah, I mean, it honestly helps his ceiling. So if you're playing large field, I think you're fine to get to Simons now. But yeah, there is some concern, obviously, with the blowout. And he would be a guy who would get rested, especially being banged up a lot of this season. I don't think they're going to want to extend him if they don't have to. But yeah, I think it helps his ceiling. So he's probably even better of a tournament play now. But the likelihood of getting that ceiling outcome might have gone down a little bit.
I will say my top exposed guys after the clear Dallas players are Randall, Anthony Simons, LeBron, and Anthony Davis. So it's just like it's so easy to fit in these pay up studs today. Like I mentioned earlier, Seth Curry. Are you gonna try and play any Seth Curry today?
Maybe he makes his way into like a lineup or two, but yeah, he's another guy I just really have issues trusting. I mean, the price on DK 3,300 is tempting, but
Yeah.
he just hasn't really been himself. I don't know if the confidence is there right now. Even when he's getting the minutes with some of these guys out, he really hasn't flashed the upside that we maybe had from him when he was still with Brooklyn or Portland or whoever else. So I don't know. I don't think we need to get there. I mean, there's so much value on Dallas. Like I said, I mean, if you are playing 4 or 5. Um, you're probably not going to want to force in some of these guys that don't feel so good. I actually think I don't even want to say this. Never mind. I was going to talk about AJ Lawson as a play.
I was going to say, I'm just got a question about it.
I mean, if the game were to blow out Lawson and Maxime Prosper, the guys you're going to want, I actually think Lawson might have a higher floor than Seth Curry, even if this game stays close. But I'm not going to be surprised if he just gets flat out DNP'd. So can't feel good about it. But yeah, they do have some interesting young talent on that team. Point guard Brandon Williams is with the team right now too. Not someone I'd ever consider playing, but maybe another reason not to get to Curry.
It's so funny. I was looking at like the prop list the other day, and they kept saying Brandon Williams for Dallas, and I'm like, do they mean Grant? But no, there's a player named Brandon Williams. Yeah, I'm not really going to get to Lawson or Prosper. It definitely could work. I just, I don't plan for blowouts, and so that's not something I'm going to do. I am going to play some Seth Curry, though. Like I was saying with the other guys, like I don't want to chase the ceiling outcome with the rest of the field, but 3,300 and only 15% owned. Like if he
Yeah.
scores 0 fantasy points and a couple of my lineups are dead, that's fine. I play a bunch of lineups every night anyway, so I'm probably going to take a few shots on Seth. And then last question, Jeremy Grant. Yeah, I mean, he gets a boost too. It's just kind of similar to Anthony Simons, the blowout risk, right?
Exactly. Definitely has upside here. I do like the price, but again, you're just running the risk of a blowout. But if you're not building for blowout, it is a limited slate. That game stays close. He could be very, very appealing as a relatively low owned option. I did see someone bring up Isaiah Joe too in that same game. I'm fine getting to Joe, but I actually prefer Carson Wallace, who I talked about a little bit earlier. I think they want to get him more involved. Both those guys are cheap as guards, both very, very risky, both have upside. Joe needs to hit some threes, but when he does, I mean, he gets the value really quick. So that's the appeal with him. But yeah, I can't say I trust Isaiah Joe or Carson Wallace, but I think if you're mixing them in, you're fine. Wouldn't want both in the same lineup, though.
Yeah, and so Isaiah Joe projected for 4 and 15% ownership. I think he's a fine GPP value play. If he outscores one or two of the Dallas guys, then that could be
Right.
a pretty powerful in GPPs. And then Jeremy Grant, I'm sure his ownership will change, but 6,800 at 7%. This is a really good GPP play. It's not going to work, I think, more times than it does. It's most of the time it's not going to work. But when it does, I mean, he has a 50-point ceiling, so I
Yep.
think that's fine. And if the game does stay close, Jeremy Grant's probably having a good game. So
Absolutely.
appreciate you guys watching. Join the Discord. Jayhawk's going to be in there in 18 minutes, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks.
Take care, everyone.